Let's be honest. Think back to your school days. How much of it was just memorizing stuff? Dates, names, formulas. But out here in the real world, you can't just Google the right answer for the big decisions. You have to make a judgment call. And that's the power of critical thinking. So today, we're going to build that skill together and move from just knowing facts to actually making reasoned decisions.
Just look at the difference between these two questions. The one on the left is pure recall. You find the date in a book and you're done, simple. But the question on the right, whoa, that's a whole different ballgame. It forces you to weigh evidence, consider different points of view, and actually form a judgment. This right here is the leap from just knowing to truly understanding.
You know, when we hear the phrase critical thinking, it's easy to picture someone who's just, critical. Someone who just points out flaws in everything. But that's a huge misconception. It's not about being negative at all. It's about getting clarity. So what is it really? Here we go. This is the heart of it. It's the ability to step back, look at information objectively, and then make a reasoned judgment. The keywords there are objectively and reasoned. It's about letting logic and evidence lead the way, not just our gut reactions or emotions. It's a discipline, really. Okay, probably the best way to think about this is like having a toolkit. I mean, you wouldn't try to build a cabinet with just a hammer, would you? No way. You need different tools for different jobs, and navigating the world of information is exactly the same. So, what's the first tool we should have in our belt? The very first tool in our kit is all about questioning where information comes from. This is basically your first line of defense against misinformation. Before you believe anything, you have to ask about its source. Who wrote this? What's their background? And maybe the most important question of all, why did they write it? What was their motive? Tool number 2 helps us separate the signal from the noise. It's all about sorting things into two piles, facts and opinions. A fact is something you can prove. India became independent in 1947. That's a verifiable fact. An opinion, on the other hand, is a belief or judgment. The British rule was good for India. Well, that's a value judgment. It's an opinion that needs a whole lot of evidence and debate to even begin to support it.
Our next tool is for bias detection. And here's something really important to get. Bias isn't automatically a bad thing. Everybody has a perspective. The goal isn't to find some mythical, perfectly unbiased source, because that probably doesn't exist. The goal is to recognize the bias that's there and see how it's shaping the story you're being told.
And our final tool is all about perspective. History is never just one single story. Think about it. What the British called the Sepoy Mutiny was for Indians the First War of Independence. It's the same series of events, but those two names tell two completely different stories, don't they? A critical thinker goes out and actively looks for these different viewpoints to get a fuller picture. Okay, so we've got our 4 tools: question the evidence, separate fact from opinion, recognize bias, and understand multiple perspectives. Now let's head into the workshop and actually put them to work. Let's start with a massive historical event, the 1947 partition of India. Imagine you're a historian and you're given 2 documents. One is a report from an Indian newspaper written at the time. The other is a personal letter from a British general who was overseeing the whole process. They're describing the same events, but you can bet the stories they tell are going to be wildly different. This is where we break out our new toolkit. Why are these 2 accounts of the same event so dramatically different? Well, we have to consider their perspectives. We have to identify their biases, separate what's a verifiable fact from what's just their opinion, and question the motives behind each document. All right, now let's jump from the past right into our living rooms today. We are just bombarded with media and ads every single day. Let's take a really common example, a TV commercial for a fairness cream. It's so easy to just passively watch it, but a critical thinker hits the mental pause button and starts to analyze it. So here are the questions you've got to ask. First, what is this ad really selling? Is it just a cream in a tube? Or is it selling an idea, like confidence or success or social status? Second, who is it targeting? Who are they talking to? And third, does it promote or reinforce a harmful stereotype, like the idea that lighter skin is somehow better? This is media literacy in action. And for our last scenario, let's tackle a complex problem that has no easy answer. A new factory is being built. On one hand, that's fantastic. It means economic growth and jobs for a community that really needs them. But there's a catch. It's also going to release pollutants into the local river, affecting the environment and the people who rely on that water. This is where critical thinking really has to shine, because this isn't about finding a simple good versus bad answer. It's about analyzing the whole situation from every possible angle. So, who are all the stakeholders here? Who stands to gain something? And who stands to lose? When we map it out like this, the complexity just jumps right out at you. The owner profits? Sure. Unemployed workers get jobs and income, which is huge. But those same workers, along with anyone living by the river, now face serious health risks from polluted water. There is no simple, clean answer here. There's just a complex web of trade-offs that have to be weighed very, very carefully. So we've used the tools, but how do we get better at all this? We can think of our own thinking process as a kind of ladder. We start at the bottom with simple recall, and our goal is to climb up to a much deeper level of understanding. Let's climb this ladder real quick. At the very bottom, you have remembering. That's just recalling facts. That's our "when was the Battle of Plassey" question. As we move up to understanding, we can start to explain things. But then we hit the sweet spot, where our toolkit really comes alive, analyzing and evaluating. This is where we compare, contrast, and make judgments. And at the very top, there's creating, where we take all that knowledge and make something totally new. The goal is to spend way more time on the upper rungs of the ladder. Ultimately, when you boil it all down, critical thinking isn't really about having the right answers. It's about asking the right questions. The entire process kicks off right there. But it's not just that you ask a question, it's how you ask it. This just nails the mindset shift we all need to make. It's not about being the person who knows everything. It's about being the person who can ask the right questions to help everyone discover the answers together. You become a facilitator of curiosity, not just a walking encyclopedia. This makes the difference crystal clear. Closed questions basically stop thinking in its tracks. You ask, "What's the capital of India?" Someone says, "New Delhi," and conversation over. But open-ended questions, they are conversation starters. They invite curiosity, analysis, debate. They are the fuel for the entire critical thinking engine. So start listening for these words in your daily life, and more importantly, start using them yourself. When you hear words like analyze, reason, or questions that start with why and how, you know that critical thinking is happening. These are the action verbs for a truly curious mind. So let's stop worrying about being the person with all the answers. Let's aim to be the most curious person in the room, the one who asks the questions that make everyone else stop and think a little more deeply. And that brings us to a final thought I want to leave with you. What's one common belief you hold, something you've maybe just accepted your whole life that you've never really truly questioned? It could be about anything at all. Now that you have this toolkit, how would you start to examine it?